do IBS? Have you gone to doctor after doctor, having test after test done, spending thousands of dollars only to be told that everything looks good, nothing's wrong? Or worse yet, it's all in your head. That you need to see a psychiatrist or counselor, or you just need to get out of the house, get a job, get a hobby, stop thinking about it so much. Well, that's more common than you think. In fact, I had 2 patients recently. One is Amanda. She had seen 2 or 3 different GI specialists, had the testing done, spent thousands of dollars, and 2 separate doctors said, it's in your head. You need to see a counselor. You need to see a psychiatrist. Sandra, same thing. She went to a few different specialists. Both of them said, can't find anything wrong. Everything looks good. You just need to get a job. You need to stop sitting home thinking about it all the time. Basically, both situations, these patients were told they were crazy. So what do you do if you're Amanda or Sandra? Well, Amanda, she went looking for help on her own. So she joined a few message boards and Facebook groups for sufferers of IBS. The problem with that is that usually there's just a bunch of people there that don't have answers of their own. Because if you've had a solution and you fixed the problem, chances are you're not hanging out in those groups. So the problem with that is it can often be pretty depressing. It can create a lot of anxiety too, because you see all these other people, they talk about everything that's failed, nothing's working, and it makes you think about, it's just something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. Likewise, Sandra, she decided to take matters into her own hands, and she started working on her diet. Now, she was already vegan, so she was already a little limited to begin with, but she started to mainly focus on good, healthy foods. So green smoothies, salads, fruits and veggies. Like, she really had a really good diet. But the problem was she found that some of the foods she liked the most, and some of the foods that are usually the best for your health, actually made her symptoms a lot worse. So if you're Amanda or Sandra, I understand where they're coming from. They both have problems. They're not feeling good. They go to specialists. They expect to get an answer. They expect to get helped. And by the very people that are supposed to be helping them, giving them answers, they're basically saying it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. So of course it's only natural to go and try to figure things out on your own. And I don't blame the doctors necessarily. In some cases they can be jerks and they can be rude about it because they don't know the answers. Maybe they feel a little self-conscious or maybe embarrassed that they can't help you. So perhaps it's more something that's happening to them or more their issue than your issue. But they still don't have to be rude about it. But I understand that it happens, and we've seen this before. In fact, going back to the book here, why I have this book up, on page 2, right off the bat, reading through the first chapter there, and it's kind of struck a nerve with me in relation to Amanda and Sandra's case, because the doc in this book talks about that, and this isn't something new, and it's not something new to medicine. So back in the 70s, they didn't know exactly what caused heart disease and heart attacks. Back then the theory was, well, it must be because you have a type A personality. So just because you're driven and you like to stay organized and you're focused on your work and your job, you must be just so stressed out that you're causing heart disease. But now they know. As you see here, we'll take a look at the CDC website on heart disease. So we see here that we know that there are several conditions and factors that are actual risk factors for heart disease and increase your risk of having heart problems. We know there's conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol that increase your risk factors for heart disease. We know that certain behaviors like smoking, excessive alcohol consumption can also increase your risk factors. Family history, so genetics. We know that if your father and grandfather or mother or sister or someone in your family has heart issues, that you're likely to have heart issues as well, so you need to work on the other risk factors that you can control. So now we know what the mechanism is. But back then they didn't, so they attributed it to just a personality type. Another example of this is for something called peptic ulcers or stomach ulcers. And if we take a look here, we will see a study from a research journal. And this goes back to 1994. So prior to this, they thought that if you had stomach ulcers, it was because you were a high-stress individual or that you were overstressed. But here they established the actual mechanism. So you'll see here in the highlight, H. pylori has established itself as a pivotal factor in peptic ulcer disease, stomach ulcers. So now we know the mechanism. So prior to this, if you went to the doctor and you were shown to have stomach ulcer, they just blamed it on stress. And if H. pylori is the cause, which we now know is a major cause, a major factor in stomach ulcers, they don't know about that. How are they going to treat that? Well, they didn't. So you probably ended up having more ulcers. They try to treat the symptoms. Perhaps they give you a heartburn medication or a medication for stomach acid, and they treat the symptoms, but they never got to the cause. So as you see by these two examples, when medicine doesn't have an answer, when doctors don't know what's wrong with you, they often default to, well, it must be in their head. It must be psychological. It must be due to stress. It must be due to anxiety. It's because they don't know the mechanism. They're not doing the right tests, so they're not getting the right answers. Well, when you do the right tests, which in fact, my office, I believe we do the right tests, you get the right answers. And then you can apply the right protocols in the right order. And when you do that, really good things happen. People start to overcome their IBS and get rid of their symptoms for good. So I've created a whole presentation that goes over all of this stuff. We talk about the right testing. We talk about the right protocols, the right order. We even go into the reasons why doctors don't order these tests or why doctors don't know about these mechanisms. Some do, like the guy in this book here. Again, if you don't take my word for it, grab the book on Amazon. I believe it's $20. Read about it. He talks about these gut bugs. But we talk about all this in the presentation. So if you want to join me and you want to learn more, sign up. Click on the link above or click on the link below this video. It's free registration, free sign up, and you can watch the whole presentation. And we'll talk about all this stuff. And I think you'll find it very, very interesting, especially if you find yourself in this situation. Because I know right now you're sitting there, you've had this happen before. You're pissed off. You've had all these tests run. You've spent thousands of dollars. And you have no better answer today than you did a year or two ago and thousands of dollars ago. So instead of going to another office, sitting and waiting for an hour for another doctor that's going to tell you nothing's wrong, that may order expensive testing, that doesn't give the right answers because it's not asking the right questions. If you don't want to go through that again and you want real solutions, start by watching this presentation. Again, click on the link above or below this video, and I'll see you on the other side.